What's up, guys? It's the tier list guys here. Back again with another tier list. With me today, I have Namvo, Willie B, and Nathan Crawford. Kyle and Alex unfortunately couldn't make it, but we got some great minds here, so I think we'll do just fine. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, pretty good.
Doing good
today.
Resting from nationals.
It is currently October 4th, and we are recording this one day after the BNR announcement. So just if you've been living under a rock, the Pulse of Eisenloft got banned in CC. Today we're going to be talking about CC, where we might do something separately for Blitz. I've also recorded a Fab 201 episode on Blitz, so that should be out soonish if you're watching this on YouTube. Anyways, so with the ban of Pulse and Eisenloft and, you know, the solidifying of the metagame over the last month or so during Nats, I think we can make a pretty accurate tier list right now. All right, so we have 5 different tiers that we came up with. At the very top, we have the Super Sweaty Tryhard tier. If you really want to take the best deck to Worlds, you're probably taking it from this tier. Next, we have the Little Deck That Could, the Little Engine That Could. They're not bad decks. They probably could win, but you might have to get a little lucky. Third, this is like the equivalent of tier 2. We have the regular decks. Quite a few decks will be here. If you're a specialist, you probably can pilot this to a 1.5 or so. Next tier, we have Twitch chat goes crazy if this hero wins a match. So if you manage to get on stream with one of these heroes and win, you know, a lot of people will be rooting for you. And then finally, we have the I hate winning tier. If you hate winning, you probably pick a hero from here. All right, so let's get into this. What we normally like to do is we like to put a hero in kind of the 1, 2, and 3 slot, just so we have some frame of reference. Let's start with the Super Sweaty Tryhard tier. What's the first hero that comes to mind when I say Super Sweaty Tryhard? Fi.
Yeah, I would say Fi. Yeah.
All right. So tell me why Fi deserves to be in the Super Sweaty Tryhard tier, and just what's his position in the metagame.
Go ahead, Will.
I was just going to say, for me, he went from the little deck that could to just the little deck that can. I thought Fi was kind of on the outside while all these ice heroes coming on the up and up. And then we saw at US Nats, like, even though admittedly Fi didn't win it, like, there were some Fis doing some work out in that field, and Swiss, and like, Fi is very, very good. I almost am hesitant to say he might be the deck to beat.
He's just a premier aggro deck, right? So that already puts him above 3 or 4 other decks at least. He has tools that he can get around ice, aka belittle, some E-Pod action as well. He's just got a solid toolkit. It's very difficult to fatigue Fi when you keep playing free cards that got a lot of recursion there. So he's just got a really solid toolkit. And that toolkit combined with being the premier aggro deck, I think is enough to put him there.
I agree with Nathan,
we've seen some divergence on the Fi decks. Those that are running the Kodachis and those that are running the Searing Emberblade. Is there a deck that we think is stronger here?
I would go with the Emberblade.
I would go with Emberblade. I think Emberblade is much stronger, much more consistent deck. The Kodachi list, so a lot of the Odoms are still playing Rampart, and so that version you can fatigue fairly easy versus the Emberblade, because I mean you have Crown of Seeds and you have Rampart. That's both your Kodachis already, and they're running a lot weaker attacks like blue snatches, the soul bead strikes, like the blue ones. They don't do much and are easily blocked.
So what you're trying to say is that the power level of the deck doesn't justify trying to go really, really wide.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean,
sure.
it has its perks. Like you can present multiple match triggers a turn, which is neat.
Mhm.
But I think the main goal of a Fi deck is just to kill your opponent and to threaten life total with every attack.
Mhm.
And that's what the Emberblade version does.
Okay. All right, so Fi goes in the super sweaty tryhard tier. If I say regular, what hero comes to mind?
Oh my.
Oh, okay. That is an interesting take. We have a Dromar player here. So, in terms of popularity, she's actually quite popular.
Very popular.
Yep. So, is that mainly because Prism simps need a outlet, or is it because she's actually strong?
I think she's in the regular tier because like she can win her matches, but with like we said, Fi coming up and even the ice decks, or I guess not the ice decks, but like Odom being able to figure out that matchup better now, which they thought that was a good matchup for them. A lot of the Dromai players have fallen off Dromai, and I know some very good Dromai players, or at least illusionist players, that are not playing it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's kind of good in her specialization. Like she's very good against ice, but just like Nam just said, the Fi decks are on the rise, and they're just disgusting to deal with. Even though you can get there, it's just, do you really want to get there that many times and that many matches in a row? And then the good Oldoms have figured out a way to get there. Like it's not as good as it was.
Mm-hmm. Have we seen much innovation in terms of the deck list? Has there been is there basically more of a stock list nowadays, or is there more of like, do you think there's room for innovation in Dromai? Let me put it that way.
I do, actually. I do not think the deck is solved. I think that there's some work to be done. It maybe needs some tools, though. It's from my talks with all of the best solutions players I know, she's not quite there. There's something missing because it's, I don't know. It feels like an uphill battle a lot of the time.
Like, normally when you talk about a hero, they're like defined by their specializations. Like Dorinthia would be garbage without her specializations. Like, Dromai and Fi actually don't really have specializations. They're basically only played in draft. That's something that might be why Dromai doesn't feel complete, is because she doesn't really have a specialization yet.
A playable one.
Yeah, a playable.
I'm sure Dynasty will fix her.
Yeah,
I'm sure Dynasty will give her a huge power bump for sure.
I think so too.
Okay. All right. So we got two pillars. Let's if I tell you that I hate winning, what deck do you think I'm playing?
Azalea and Levia. Just go and slap them both down there. Don't need to react those.
Yeah,
right.
if Levia had a chance, then she would have broke out like one of those Reinars did. Like even Reinar's a better choice right now. It's too bad.
Is there
not much to say there?
Is there anything that we need to update in terms of, there was a list that topped in Poland, an Azalea list.
Wasn't that an 8-man tournament?
No, it was
no. Yeah, Poland's got a good community.
Poland is very strong.
Don't sleep on Poland. Those guys are solid. They play they got like a really big Bravo community, which is actually surprising because Bravo statistically would be really good into Azalea, but maybe you never know. Half of that was draft, right? So it was not all CC.
Also, doesn't Azalea hate on Fi? I think I heard that somewhere.
Probably does.
Read in the ledger, and they can recur it a lot. Okay.
Right.
All right. Put her in Twitch chat, goes crazy.
Well, this is every hero here will also be in here.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
By default, yeah.
Maybe we should change this. Everything below this Twitch chat. The zero wins the best. All right. Okay, so we got some baseline here.
Yep.
let's just start knocking these heroes out. I guess let's
Yep.
go in terms of metagame share. I guess we have to put Icelander on the map here. We expect this to be one of the most popular decks at Worlds.
Yep.
Where would we put her?
I would put her in sweaty.
I'd put her
Yeah.
in sweaty too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I think there is 3 decks that are in super sweaty tryhard tier right now.
Okay.
She's just good.
So, from what I saw at Nats, there are 3 types of Icelander decks. There's the very traditional Icelander deck that's running a ton of blues, a ton of disruption, basically only arcane damage, and they're just trying to do what they do in draft, but to a more extreme level. There's also the build that Michael Hamilton won with, using a few very, very large attacks. That gives you an edge in the mirror, gives you an edge against Dromai, and it's also a little unexpected. And people often just take 7-8 damage because there's no on-hit effect, and then they take it 2-3 times, and then they realize, oh crap, I can't take that anymore. And then there's also another deck list that I actually ran into in round 1 of the calling. It's a list that focuses on using Kraken Aethervein, things like Frostfang, Pummel, Cornet Peak, just really trying to attack your hand, deny you cards, basically always trying to ping you for 1 with the Aethervein. Very, very interesting list. Definitely a list that can catch you off guard if you don't really, really like figure out what they're doing really quickly. All 3 decks are actually very, very solid, and that is actually one of the reasons why I think Icelander is so strong, is because you don't really know exactly what you're going to be facing. Like, even if the Kraken Aethervein style is like not common and you just assume that they're not on that, like when you present AB3, AB4, and then they literally attack you with like physical damage for like 15 turns, like it's gonna catch you off guard. Do we have anything else to add to Icelander? Is there a particular reason why she's so strong?
I mean, she's definitely strong, but I think that Michael Hamilton, you know, his list kind of surprised a lot of people. So I think obviously everybody's testing for Worlds is going to run it into that deck, and I think a solid strategy will be developed against that. No telling what that'll be, but I think she, out of all the top list, is the most vulnerable to having a solid game plan against it and being able to easily navigate that game.
Sure. Okay. So Icelander, super sweaty tryhard tier. Nam, you said there was one more here that's in the super sweaty tryhard tier.
I would put Odom in there. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, for
All
sure.
right. Let's try to make this list like actually correct, left to right. So left would be the most sweaty tryhard tier. Where does Oldham go? And
First or second?
And is
I
Fi
personally
in the
will say
correct-
first.
is Fi in the correct position here?
I would say Fi second.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Fire surrounded by ice. Okay.
yeah.
Talk to me about
is-
Oldham.
I mean, Odom has taken over basically the format. I would personally say that he's the best deck right now. It's not by much, but I think he's taken over how many nats? He's a ton. And I mean, Michael Fang just won another battle hardened with it, and he's crushing Fies. Like he's taking them all down. So he's got something down with the deck, and he's playing a much more mid-range list. So he's slowed down a little bit. He is losing to Dash, but he's crushing the Fies. He's beating everything else.
Can you talk to me a little bit about how the banning of Pulse of Eisenloft affects the deck?
I personally don't think it affects the deck way too much. I had already had the thought of cutting Oakenolds, and because like we don't play much Earth cards either way.
Basically, Raging Onslaught if you don't fuse it.
I mean, people were playing more Earth cards to try to fuse on the first cycle, but since all the Odom decks are playing much more aggro style, we're trying to kill before we even reach the second cycle. So pitch stacking those pulses aren't as good, since we're not getting to that third or fourth cycle like we used to. Most of the decks, we're trying to just kill as fast as possible. Like Fi, we can't really fatigue them. Icelander, we also have to kill. Dromai, we have to kill. Dash, we have to kill. There's nothing that you can really fatigue or play slow against. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess where the pulse is most relevant is in the mirror. So if you both don't have it, it's like, all right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the pulse is good against Fi as well. Like you can prevent
Double
damage
react, yeah.
and get them to lose a card, but missing it won't hurt as much as people are making it out to be.
Because that only happened once per game, and on average, it only happened half the games, right? So
yeah.
This is only relevant probably in the Bravo matchup, if I had to guess, where you're constantly
Guardians.
going. Yeah,
Well, we'll say
constantly
Guardians.
going to the second cycle, third cycle. Okay, sure. Okay, so we have our established sweaty tryhard tier. Let's talk about the little decks that could. Is there a fourth best deck that pops up?
Dash is the standout for me here.
Yeah.
I would say Dash.
Okay, talk to me a little bit about Dash.
It beats two of the ones above it. It beats the ice sandwich, but it loses to the fire. So
are we talking about? There's two types of Dash decks. There's the Switch style that's running, a lot of boost cards.
ultra defensive.
And
If you're not
also-
playing that, you're not doing it right.
Okay, so there's also the ultra defensive Dash deck.
Yeah.
What is the difference between that and the Switch deck? So the Switch deck I know runs Sync Fate, Unmovable, 3 Purifiers, 2 Induction Chambers. What is
the Switch deck? The Switch deck loses to Heart of Ice against Oldhim, and so beating Oldhim is your whole strategy, right? That's the whole reason you're playing that deck is to beat Oldhim and Icelander. So even Boost Dash isn't going to beat Fi, right? Like, is it a better win percentage than the ultra defensive? Obviously, but it's still not anywhere in a good spot, right? So, especially because now the cat's out of the bag, you have to basically start almost every match with an induction chamber. You get fatigued, so
we're not going to see Talishar dashes running around.
Right, like that's just gone. So I think that if you're not doing the ultra defensive, I think
so what are some
the life game is
cards
just too good.
other than Sink Below, Fate Foreseen, Unmovable that define the
Healing Bomb, Sigil, Fighting Spirits, all the life gain creates the buffer to survive through the dominate.
Okay.
Because if you block with a 3-block and Healing Bomb on your turn, that's no different mathematically than just being able to block with 2 cards on the dominate. So you're effectively shifting the dominate damage to your turn in gaining life, because typically the dominate cards don't have relevant on-hit effects, with Terra Sunder being the exception, like it's a Glacial or a Macho or something like that.
It also turns your reds into blues against the wizards.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have Dash in the little deck that could category. Is there another deck that comes to mind in that area?
Briar and Viscerai.
All right, which one do you want to talk about first?
The better of the two, I believe, is Briar.
Okay.
Would you put Rhinar in there as well?
When he has his highs, it's just his lows.
It could. I think. So I guess my question would be, you obviously are playing Rhinar to kind of beat Oldhim and Icelander, right? Because if you intimidate Icelander, right, you're dictating which cards she can block with and can't, which could invalidate her strategy in some way, depending on what you hit. But if you're targeting those decks, why would you not just play Dash? That's way more consistent, right? Like, because if you're Rhinar, you're still losing against those aggro matches. I mean, it's not the worst matchups in the world, but like, it's not great. So if you're I don't think Rhinar's bad. Like, he could be at the very bottom of the little deck that could category, but yeah.
All right, let's talk about Briar first. We'll come back to Rhinar. Is the main thing that's keeping Briar out of this tier just a consistency issue, or is there something else that's bothering Briar?
It's just the guy right above her. It's just the guy right above her. That's all.
Is Fi just has too much damage output, or is it?
No, it's just you. So before US Nats, I could actually say without a shadow of a doubt, Briar had no bad matchup except for Lexi. Like every matchup was winnable, no matter who it was. And with Fi, I mean, it's obviously still winnable, but you're consistently losing due to the structure, the consistent version that's not running like Spreading Flames, all those high rolly cards, the Dan Rakowski list. You know, those you just can't stop the mass triggers and proceed with your own game plan. And to have your channel turn, you have to take
a lot of damage,
a whole bunch of damage, and then they finish with a snatch, and you take even more. I mean, there's turns where they're drawing 2 or 3 cards. You just can't do that because at the end of the day, what's the point of playing CMH if you're giving them 3 extra cards? It's effectively the same trade. You're just taking all the damage up front, and then they block.
Okay.
So,
do you think that Briar does well against the other little deck that could decks?
Absolutely. I think she does very well into she's probably one of the best decks in the dash because she doesn't have consistent damage output. She has spiky damage, which is exactly what you want to beat dash. She, out of all the aggro decks, she does the best into Icelander, even without Belittle, because she has a bunch of blues she does not need. And then Oldham, once again, has a bunch of that she does not need, therefore less vulnerable to ice and frostbites and disruption.
Okay. Sure. Okay, so Briar solidly in the middle section of the little deck that could. You wanted to talk about Viscera as well. Do we think Viscera is actually here, or is he kind of down here nowadays?
I mean, he's definitely good. I just think people started realizing that you really need to block the Mavrian Skies triggers. Once people realized that was kind of adding up as far as the damage goes. It's just he's very consistent, but can still brick really hard. Whereas Briar can still brick, but she has those super high rolls with CMH to kind of even that out. So I can't think of a situation on where you would want to run this over Briar personally.
Okay.
He still has some very cool capabilities, though. Like, I've even heard about people doing the OTK plan against Oldham again, which is wild to me. I didn't think that was even possible still.
More power to them if they want to do the Read the Runes, Ninth Blade, any of that stuff. Let them have at it. I don't think that's the correct strategy into Oldham, but if somebody figures it out, then I'll be the first to say I was wrong.
Okay. We briefly talked about Reinhardt. Why is Reinhardt a pretty decent choice these days?
He can say no to Icelander. I met an Icelander player who was like really good at Pro Tour 2 in France, and he was like rubbing elbows with I think it was Matt Rogers in between rounds talking about like strategy and stuff. And then I saw him sit down next to me at a table for a Reinhardt matchup, and he walked away very disappointed. That Reinhardt just said no to all the Icelander things and beat the heck out of him.
Yep.
I think we need to talk about the Icelander play pattern. So the Icelander play pattern often is play a blue from Arsenal, give you a frostbite, kind of take a look at what you're doing, and then decide whether or not they want to, how they want to block, or whether they want to put resources into Waning Moon, and what they're going to put into Arsenal next turn. But Reiner really flips all that on its head, where it says, all right, barraging beatdown, choose now what you want to do.
Right.
And there's another thing with Reinhardt is that once you've accepted the intimidate, like, there's many scary things that can follow up from that. Like, you don't actually have to Blood Rush Bellow first against Wizard. It's very common play pattern to Barraging Beatdown, say, do you want to do anything right now? No? Okay. I'm going to play Blood Rush Bellow. Are you sure?
No.
Do you want to take back your
Last
move?
chance.
Yep. So, what my
They
main
also
point
have
was
extra
that
AB as well.
being at 36 life for Icelander means you die to like 1.5 Blood Rush Bellow turns, and you have no armor as well. Not much armor as Icelander. So that's quite good. And Reinhardt also kind of bypasses Oldhim's traditional defense. Like, there's a lot of hands as Oldhim where you can't really use all 4 cards. So it's like, even if you give the Oldhim a 4-card hand, they're like, they might just pitch a blue and play something, another blue attack or something like that. So
They really have to wait for their third tunic to Crown of Seeds for an extra card to be able to stop the extra damage.
Yep. Reinhardt, I guess, would on paper would also be very good against defensive dash.
Yes.
You can't defend with no cards in hand, so
That's a fact.
yeah. But I think in general he would actually struggle against the. Now that I'm talking about this
aggro's,
more,
yeah.
Reinhardt is basically reverse Bolton. Like, if those two could somehow
there
come
you go.
together, or you bring 2 decks to Worlds, and you're like, are you playing aggro or control? You're playing aggro? All right, I'm going to play Bolton. Oh, you're playing control? Okay, I'm going to play Reinhardt. Somehow they could, combine Worlds. That would be nice. But yeah, do we have anything else to talk about for Reinhardt?
Nope.
No.
I just want to add that is it too late to learn that deck at this point? Because that deck seems just as hard as Icelander to pilot, probably. Like, all of these decks right here are like fairly medium to learn, whereas I'd say these two are significantly harder.
Depends on the current meta or like the way you need to play Reinhardt. Like if they need a pitch stack for multiple barraging beatdown turns, I could say yes. But at the moment, I feel like they might need to just jam everything on the table, which wouldn't be as hard to.
Right.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
That's it for C.
I guess once you nail down like your club matchups and claw matchups, that's already like maybe piloting is not as hard as like sideboarding it. Okay, so Reinhardt goes there. I mentioned Bolton. Let's talk about Bolton. Bolton clearly goes over here.
Absolutely.
The reason.
Unfortunate.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Bolton. Currently, if we assume that this is the top tier of play, like these 7 here, let's start with the good. Bolton destroys Phi. I don't see how you ever lose to defensive dash, like ever, as Bolton. Dash just doesn't block that well, even with all the defensive cards. Like, they still have a decent amount of attack actions, and they have cards that literally don't block as well, so there's that.
Yeah.
And Briar and Viscera are like, you have to get kind of unlucky, and they have to get kind of lucky for this to be a match. So these 4 are pretty easy. The issue is that Oldhim and Icelander are complete nightmares, and like, it's very difficult to build a deck. I actually tried to. I think I sort of succeeded in doing so, but like, you have to sacrifice these 4 matchups quite a bit to get these 2 to be a decent spot. And I'm not actually like, there's a lot of issues with Bolton into Oldhim because you have to set up quite a bit, and you still have to take some risks to combo against them. And after you combo, you might not have much deck left to kill them. So there's that. Icelander, just if you're playing like a really, really wide Raiden deck, I think she can kind of hold her really important disruption for your via the Vanguard turn, and then you're just out of luck. Anyway, so I would definitely not in the bottom tier because I think he actually has good matchups. The only issue is that Bolton kind of like, he has like polarizing matchups, which is not really good for stability. So I'd put him over here. Is there another hero that we think is kind of next to Bolton here? In the Twitch chat goes crazy. Is it Ketsu?
Okay. I would say Kano.
All right, let's talk about Kano first.
Yeah, we'll do Kano.
All right, so this current metagame has been pretty hostile for Kano, right? I mean, people are running AB now because of Iceland.
Everybody's got AB.
And you're very, on paper, you're very bad against Icelander, right? Like, the Alluvian Constellius is like...
Yeah.
Well, I guess you have access to it as well as Kano, but...
Yeah, they both could use it, yeah.
I've heard the Kanos have started running that for Icelander, and apparently it makes the match better, but still,
Yeah, I think Icelander just running so many blues hurts Kano. I think it beats the Wizard matchup. Fi runs over Kano. He's just too fast. The aggro Oldhim decks are hitting hard enough to where they're threatening a third of your life total with every attack. And they still run plenty full of blue cards, so they can still stop your big wildfire turns. And having Oasis respect just in the game is hurting Kano.
Yep. Okay. So. All right.
Dromai's a very rough matchup for him too. Dromai's not fun.
I was just about to say, like, having so much AB and just having Thamai and like that seems pretty rough for Kano. All right. Okay, so let's talk about Bravo. Feels like a regular hero, right?
Regular.
It's close, honestly. Actually, I think it could
up here.
No. I think it'll be higher.
Yeah,
I think he could be in the little deck that could. Actually,
you know what? I think you're right. Actually,
because
you're right.
Bravo does lose to Dash, right? And against the other, like the Rune Blades, if they're drawing their disruption cards, they can win that matchup. It might be a 50-50. I really haven't played that matchup as often as I should. Against Oldhim, it's pretty close. Guardian matchups are usually long and grindy.
So the pulse band didn't hurt.
Yeah.
So
the pulse band didn't hurt too bad. But it does tilt it a little bit, a couple percentages, just because they can't see it as they don't get to do the reaction every 3 or 4 times a game. So essentially that could be gaining or losing out on 6 to 8 life gain because of the defense, right? They actually can beat 5 more consistently because they do have all the disruption in the world, and plus their on-demand dominate really hurts them. Against Icelander, the on-demand dominate is also good against her too.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and you're just sending one giant attack, so like getting an extra frostbite, who cares?
Most of the time, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it does hurt with your math if they give you a frostbite at a good time or even multiple. Yeah. I mean, activating Bravo gives them a window to react, which or creating a seismic surge at the last turn, having it pop in the start of your turn also gives them windows, but he's up there. I think he definitely deserves a spot in the low deck that could.
He also beats up on Dromai, the Illusionist Guardian matchup that is no longer Illusionist favored. That matchup is awful.
They just have enough poppers. They just have so many poppers. End of the game when you're rated a semblance with your ghostly touches, they'll just throw their whole hand at it. And once you're out of semblances, they'll pop it. And that's it. It's a long grind game. Nobody loves it, but it's definitely tilted more to the Bravo side now.
Interesting. Okay, we got 3 heroes left. The people that play these decks really love these decks. Let's talk about Dorinthia first.
I think she's squarely in the regular.
She is probably the most average, normal hero, regular hero that exists.
Yeah.
She is the most 3 for a card hero in the game. A lot of the math in the game is based on Dorinthia. The whole 1 card is worth 3, came from Dorinthia. I'm gonna put her. I'll talk a bit and then decide where to put her in this tier. Pros for Dorinthia. You have a fair bit of agency in most matchups. You really get to dictate when you are blocking and when you're going for it. So there's a lot of decision making to be made as Dorinthia. Overall, she has enough health and enough threat to deal with the aggro matchups, although I'd say Viscera is probably the trickiest one, and Fi is the easiest, and Briar's kind of in the middle. But the main issue here is that Oldhim is a complete nightmare to deal with. I had to play 3 of them at the calling, and like they weren't even running that many D-reacts, but the deck just having the Tunic and Tunic Crown and having 5 cards to block means you better have Twinning Blade or Red Overpower, or you're not getting through. And you only have 6 copies of those. So the Dory versus Oldhim matchup is quite difficult. And the Dory versus Icelander matchup is also fairly difficult because you're not a very wide deck. Dorinthia is a tall deck, but you have to play things pre-combat, and then she gets to judge whether or not she wants to do something to you. Dorinthia's cost curve is also extremely tight, probably the tightest. Like there's a giant difference between 1 and 0 cost in the Dorinthia decks, and you know normally their turn is based off of a single blue. So Icelander just is also very, very difficult to deal with. A super defensive dash does not sound very fun either to go against. So like she has stable matchups, but some of her matchups are quite unfavored at the moment. She has a lot of fun though to play, so there's that. But you have to work hard for your wins, and sometimes you can't work hard enough. Let's just put it that way. Anything else to add for that? For Dory?
Oh, you got that one covered.
Yeah, that's all you.
It's funny. I feel like she's in a better position than she's been in a while, but still, it's like there's that Oldhim matchup and that Icelander matchup.
Yeah, with Prism leaving, I was like, sweet, let's do this. But in many ways, you know, it's actually worse than before. Yep. All right. I will note though that the Dory versus Reinhardt, Bravo, and Ketsu matchups are all very, very fun. They were all created in the same set. My favorite matchup in the game is actually Dory versus Bravo, probably. That is like the most traditional feeling matchup in the game. I don't know if you guys have any. Do you guys have any other, like, what matchup in the game feels the most like Flesh and Blood?
Oh, the chain mirror match. Oh my goodness.
Chain mirror
disaster. Oh, what a disaster.
Flesh and Blood in its purest form.
No, it's definitely the Fi mirror in limited, for sure.
Ah, yes.
That's the Flesh and Blood experience.
Okay.
I love me some Guardian mirror matches, right?
Okay.
For me, it's WTR draft, Katsu versus Bravo. That match just felt so good. It was very dependent on if you had a couple of sink belows or unmovables, but that was so fun.
Sure. Yeah, WTR was a special time. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna put Dory, I think, a little bit behind Dromai. I could be swayed either way. All right. Let's talk about Lexi. Lexi used to be, you know, kind of around here-ish.
Yeah.
But it seems like this metagame is just not where she wants to be.
I think she's actually in Twitch chat, honestly.
Yep. Hi, Twitch chat.
She's not bad. Like, she's a fundamentally good. Well, not fun. Her mechanics are terrible. That's just Ranger.
I don't know if we could say Ranger has fundamentally good mechanics, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, mechanically, it's actually very bad. But like, the whole reason you would play Lexi is you either want to do lightning things or frost things, right? And if you're doing frost things, you're basically doing inefficient Icelander and Oldham things, which doesn't make sense, right? Anytime, if you can win as well with one card, that's way more flexible and way better than anything Lexi can do with a couple cards. And plus, we're in a very disruptive format, so she's also punished by that. And if you want to go lightning, right? Well, imagine if every third card Lexi played, it drew a card. Oh, let me introduce you to Phi, right? And that's why. If that was your goal, if you're trying to race people, why would you not get free on hits that you don't have to pay through bad mechanics for?
We talked about.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we talked about how you can't fatigue Phi. Well, you can fatigue Lexi.
That's a fact.
Yeah, I was just about to say she does not have a weapon, which is actually like something that like Lexi basically cannot use a 1-card hand. So she can barely use a 2-card hand efficiently. So you basically have to like go as Lexi, so you're not blocking much. And against the heroes at the top, if you're not blocking much, they're getting a lot of value, or you're dead, or you got a ton of on-hit effects. Like there's really no hero that you really want to no block up there. So okay, so Lexi goes in the Twitch chat goes crazy if this hero wins category. Finally, we have Ketsu. Where does Ketsu go?
Where does Ketsu go?
I'll have to probably throw him in Twitch chat too.
Okay.
I almost want to put him in I Hate Winning. It's just, if you're going to play a ninja right now, why aren't you playing Phi?
Yeah, the same argument. The same argument with Lexi and the other ice heroes. It's the same argument for him and Phi. So it's just, he's not bad. He's just, there's another hero out there that does the exact same thing way better.
Yep. The argument can be made that, like, why would you want to discard a card to tutor a card when
you can just grab one?
When your whole deck when your whole deck is basically the same card and does a bunch of consistent damage. So it's like,
right.
Yeah.
Discard a card, fetch one, or just grab one. Like,
yep, exactly.
Who grab those?
Breaks my heart though. I love Katsu so much. I think he's like one of my favorites. He's so cool. But yeah. I
played against one in the calling. He was X2. He was like 8-2, I think, at the time. Yeah.
And once again, we're in a very disruptive meta. So like Phi can do a lot of things with 2 cards, where Katsu, unless you were on that whole like control plan, it's very hard to use combo keywords with 2 cards.
Gotta say, Rampart Crown did some work.
That's it.
Yep.
Who would have known?
Who would have known?
Okay. We have finished everything here. Is there anything we want to move in terms of within the tier or up or down?
I would love to move Briar up, but we can't.
I'd love to.
There's a wall of fire and ice up here.
I would actually move Bravo between the Rune Blades or in front of the Rune Blades.
I mean, he's not bad. It's definitely not bad.
Is that just to emphasize the gulf between these heroes here?
Maybe.
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
I do agree. Briar is just a better Rune Blade.
That's a fact.
Sure. Okay, so in terms of Worlds metagame, do we expect these to be 15, 15, 15 roughly? Maybe 20, 15, 15 or something like that?
No, I don't know. I think you have to look at like, I haven't like, if you have, because obviously there's going to be 6 formats of Uprising Draft. There's going to be 5 rounds of CC, 5 rounds of Blitz.
There's actually
total
not
of 16
that many
rounds.
CC rounds, to be fair.
Right.
Like,
so
you could just take
like,
one of these heroes, pray that you dodge, and then, you know.
So I'm not a historical card player. Like, this is my first game that I've actually like taken seriously and been competitive at. But is there like a fundamental rule that if you are playing less rounds, you play like more a deck that has more polarized matchups or vice versa? Is there like a, because I think if there is something like that, I think it would play a huge factor into, because maybe, you know, maybe you don't want to take Briar that's almost 50-50 into everything, into a round that it's only 5 rounds. Like maybe that's not the right choice.
I think in a longer tournament you need a more consistent deck, but I think at Worlds you can kind of just YOLO and pray that you dodge. Like if I took Bolton and I got 4 aggro matchups and then a control dash, I'm probably getting out of there 4-1, to be frank. Like if I don't get paired against these 2 heroes,
exactly,
that just really might be the play for me. But I think with only 5 rounds of CC, you can kind of play Dromai and hope that you don't run into bad matchups, or, you know, take Dash and hope you don't run into, you know, Reinhardt or whatever, right? So, so even though it kind of looks like this metagame is not as wide open as it looks, I really think, like, even down to here, you could make an argument for these heroes as well. Especially if you're a specialist in one of these 4 heroes, or a specialist in one of these 6 heroes. I would say, like, if you get the right matchups and you pilot it very well, I think you could actually do fine.
Just there's only 5 games till top 8, and then so it's like this.
That's true.
This is only a third of the matches within this heroes.
I agree, because, like, man,
I also think
really win
because of the Worlds format, there's 16 rounds, and there's not, in theory, there's not going to be more players than, like, our Nats. I think there's going to be between, like, 250 and 350 people at this event. So they're actually playing, like, 2 or 3 extra rounds that they don't need to. So you can actually drop rounds and be fine.
There'll be a lot of 12-4s that make it in for sure. Because there'll be a lot of losses because the inconsistencies in blitz and stuff like that.
Sure. Okay. I think that pretty much wraps up this video. Any closing words from you guys?
I mean, this is what we think. Let us know in the comments what you guys think, or if you would put these heroes in any different order.
I guess also, if you guys have any suggestions for what the tier list guys can do in terms of tier lists or charts, we can be pretty creative here, I think.
And what should we do next?
Yeah, what should we do next? Leave it in the comment down below. But yeah, if you guys don't have anything else, I think we're just going to wrap this up. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. We really do like putting out content like this. I love sitting down with the boys and having a chat about things and making a tier list. It's always a nice, fun time. We have a Patreon. You can check out that in the links below, and we also have a Discord. We have a pretty active Discord there. Go ahead and join that. That's also nice. But yeah, this has been Josh, Nam, Willie B, and Nathan. Yeah, we're signing out. We're getting out of here. See ya.
See you guys at Worlds.
All right.
Bye-bye.